Welcome to the Sales SOS podcast, where we answer your sales distress calls. I'm your host, Liz Hyman, bringing the rescue boat to your sales challenges. In this ever-changing sales environment, it's easy for leaders to feel adrift. We're here to be the beacon guiding you to success. Each episode, I'm joined by top sales experts and practitioners who have navigated this waters and come out victorious. Together, we'll uncover the insights and strategies that will help you hit your sales targets and grow your business. So if you're ready to turn your sales distress into sales success, you're in the right place. Let's dive into today's topic. Welcome to the Sales SOS podcast. I'm Liz Hyman, and I'm here with your sales podcast, your Sales SOS crew, Daryl Prell, Renee Bigelow, Chris Bowen, and Bryn Tillman. And we're talking about kicking off 2025 and being successful. And we've been talking about being better leaders. We've been talking about supporting your team to success, building good culture. The thing that I hear the most is I have no idea what my sales team is going to deliver. In fact, I looked at a stat the other day. I don't know if you guys have seen this. See if I can get the stat right. 80% of American companies cannot estimate their forecast within 25%. That means, if I've got this right, if I haven't got this right, somebody can correct me, that if you are a $40 million company, you do not know if you're going to hit $50 million or $30 million. Now, some of that you can't, there's nothing you can do. If COVID hits, all bets are off, right? But in general, we should have a better idea than that. So what are the things that we can do to help everybody in the company have a better understanding of what's really happening, what's really possible, and how do you forecast it and map it? So we talked about how do you support it to get there, but how do you forecast it and map it?
I'll go with one.
I knew you'd be first. You're going to have a whole bunch. This is like right up your alley.
This is my pet peeve. But I find it pretty endemic across mid-sized companies, especially if they've grown quickly, and are like had a scale up moment where they grew a lot, and now they're kind of settling into what they're going to be, which is kind of in that range of what we're talking about several $1 million. You'll see them assign out like numbers and forecast and level it across the year. And I'm like, this is, if you've worked in enterprise, you do have you do have the ability to get deeper into your data and understand when your heavier purchase periods are, when customers are going to close. You understand your cycles, right? In a lot of these companies that have grown quickly, they had a big moment of growth. Everything was huge. Like they don't have the data often to drill it down and see that, or they're too new to see it. And I think that that's a number one place with accurate forecasting that we can do, because expenses on many, you'll see a CFO of one of those companies say, well, expenses are the same across the year. I need revenue to be the same, right? Like it just doesn't work like that. Like, but if, for instance, in many B2B companies, you get to the 2 weeks, the week of Christmas and the week in between Christmas and New Year's, like things go dead, right? Like, because a lot of people do take 2 weeks off or a lot of vacations or whatever. So you can close things that are really close to closing during that time, because that's finishing something up, but you're not starting anything during that period, right? The same goes for kind of the doldrums of summer. You're going to have a ton of people on vacations. Like there are different times, and you can look at a lot of your data and find some of these if you know to do it, right? And figure out some of the ebbs and flows of when those deals are going to close to get you a better accurate forecast rather than levelizing it across the year. That's my top one, Daryl.
Okay, I was waiting for that. Was right in there. I love that. Actually, it's hilarious because I see it all the time. That's a CFO's point of view and how to do forecasting. Just level it across because it's easy. Works in my Excel formula. I thought for sure you're going to go in. It's data, it's RevOps, which is where I'm going to go. So for me, the whole idea of predictability and accuracy, because they go together. I can't be predictable if the data I'm working from is not accurate. Is data. the objection I hear from sales leaders is that, well, the sales team I have right now, they're young, they're not seasoned, they're not doing great. Okay. Well, how does this team you have now compare to the team you had a year ago or 18 months ago or 2 years ago or 3 years ago? Because I suspect they've not gotten worse. If you're doing your job, they should have gotten better, just as an aside. So, let's assume you're going to have better success now than you did then, or at least the same. Okay, that leads to data. Do you have the data so you can actually do the forecasting based on, to Renee's point, the seasonality, et cetera, the staffing, vacation schedules, et cetera? And I find too many people just wing it. I love Renee's example where they've had some early success and now they've kind of got to this mid-level point. What that really means is, oftentimes, is when they had early success, they had no systems. And now they're thinking they should have a system. And you can't forecast when you have no data, and you had no data because you had no systems. So you've got to have a repeatable process. You have to work backwards. And what is it I want to track so I can measure, so I can use to influence my forecast? And is that in the model? Is that in the sales framework? Are my reps capturing that information? Can I measure it in my CRM? So it all comes down to data. And then you can use lots of different tools, whether it be AI or a good RevOps leader, to help you forecast. And I just see too many sales leaders' eyes glaze over when this topic comes up. So it's data.
Well, and let me make one point quickly about the data is if you don't have agreement about terminology,
Yes.
about protocols, about how you name things, about what stage things are in, the data will be wrong. About what is qualified and what isn't qualified, the data will be wrong anyway. Go ahead, Bren, what you got? Oh, wait, go ahead, Daryl.
It's not the beauty of a RevOps individual or team in an organization is that they can overcome what Liz just talked about, because too many sales leaders only want to know this little narrow window of their view of the world, where the RevOps person can look at a bigger picture, transitions from marketing, handoffs to sales, so they can figure out and the model and the system.
Did he freeze?
He's frozen. Yeah.
I mean, I'll jump into mine till he's back.
Okay.
I think that forecasting.
Hold on 1 second, Brent. Daryl, we just lost. You froze. We missed most of that, but
it was really good though. Just trust me.
I know it was.
I was just saying you need a good RevOps leader who's not under the thumb of sales to help create the data model across the whole revenue team, not just what sales thinks they need to do accuracy for and forecasting.
Right. Excellent. Okay, Brent, go ahead.
I love it. So I'm going to go to my creative brain and go beyond data, because this is the first year I'm ever really even looking at data for my own small business. So I'm going to say that a disciplined process is as important in forecasting as the actual data itself. So like if you can commit to a regular cadence, and like your campaigns and you're aligning your team with the outreach and you've got consistent messaging and consistent content, I think and you're building habits that are consistent, I feel like you can add that to the data to accurately forecast. So are we actually doing the work, not just the numbers, but and it's not just how many dials, right? But are we committed to a process? Are we committed to doing it consistently across the board? I know I'm kind of wandering here, but I think it's the people piece that's part of forecasting, not just the data piece.
And that's setting expectations and holding people accountable, right? And measuring progress. So absolutely. Chris, what you got? How do you keep your forecasts accurate?
I think some of it's having the conversations, but the other part of it is letting people actually understand the impact across the organization of bad forecasts, because that determines a lot of where we may be hiring people, who we're bringing on, when we're going to bring those people on, because we're expecting a certain level of volume and we know we're going to need additional support, things like that. But we're trying to get ahead of that so that we don't introduce real inefficiencies into our process. And when we don't have a good forecast, it makes it real difficult for us to be able to know how should we hire. And that can put businesses, especially in the small and medium-sized businesses, in a real bind, but because they're banking on certain things happening or not happening. And in both cases, you could end up not servicing your customer, which is then going to increase your churn, which is obviously a bigger problem to solve. So,
Okay. So let's recap, because part of it is, do you have the systems in place to support it? Do you have the technology? Do you have the people that know how to gather, read, assess, deliver the information? Two, do you have the processes? Are they clearly defined? Is everybody following the same set of rules and guidelines as your, and can you measure that? So if we're not all following the same process, what we're putting into the CRM is different. If we're not all using the same language, we're not representing the same things. So again, Daryl said the right RevOps person can help smooth out some of that, the data mistakes or the inaccuracies. And the third thing is clearly understanding what are your sales cycles, all of the things about it. What are your high seasons? What are your low seasons? Which products do you sell more of during which seasons? You're probably not selling snow blowers in July, right? What are you doing, and what are the highs and lows? I think I've missed a couple of things, but the idea is to have the processes and systems to understand the information that you have. And if you don't have the data yet, you've got some accounting data you can pull that says, hey, did you notice we have a really slow January every year? Yes, I knew you had a really slow January because you made everybody close everything in December that they could possibly close. So you got nothing in your funnel for January. Like, what are your cycles? What do they look like?
Liz, I just want to add, you also have marketing data that can help you with forecasts too. And I think this is wholly underutilized. But when I was talking about the different weeks that slow down in a B2B world, like you can see that clearly if you look at an analytics chart. Like if you see the website traffic, you will see when people are coming and when they're going. And when they're not coming is typically because your customers' worlds are soft at the moment. It could be vacations, it could be whatever. Could be, as you pointed out, it's August and we aren't looking at snow blowers. Like you have a lot of that data in marketing as well.
Yeah, and it's also looking at what's in the funnel. I can't stress that enough. If your funnel isn't full, if marketing hasn't pulled enough leads in, if sales hasn't done enough prospecting, whatever it is, but if your funnel isn't full 6 months out, the problem, if you've got a business to business complex sale, you're 6, 8, 9, 12 months later that you're feeling that impact. So you can't forecast if you don't really understand what's in the funnel.
I think to your point of like really understanding and the process and the stages and really understanding, the biggest place I often see meaningless data is assigning a percent. Like, so you put in what you think the opportunity amount is in the beginning, right? And then as things move through stages, and it could be simply an activity is done, and now there's a percent
confidence,
and that gets translated into a revenue number, right? And it's really just an activity that just got done, not some change in the status or whatever. I think that's where I see a lot of meaningless data get built out.
So two things. One is stages and activities are two different things. And we've talked about this in past episodes. If you think that just because you sent a proposal that something's ready to close, your forecasting is not going to be accurate. So you have to understand the buyer journey. Where are they really in their process? Not just what activity did they do. They may want to do 6 demos and you measure one demo as putting you in a certain place when perhaps you're not really there.
Well, and do you know how many of those deals actually close that got to that stage in the first place? Right? If you get to a demo and you only close 20% of your things that get to a demo, but your percentage of your process says you're 80% of the way there and you're using that number, it's going to be so horribly flawed. It's like you need to understand what it really is saying about your organization. Then you can go back and try to fix some of the things. If our win rate at demo is 20%, well, why are these falling out? Because that should be the place where we're strong. We're showing our product. We've already gotten their interest, hopefully. Well, maybe you didn't. Maybe you didn't really understand the problem. Maybe they didn't understand how you help them. Maybe they don't understand some of the bells and whistles that are really, really important, but you haven't explained them in the context that they need to understand it, right? There's things like that that you can make really bad math mistakes.
And then the second thing is, I know this is really goofy and you guys are going to laugh at me. I often have my clients create 2 percentage categories, because what I know is if a salesperson says, if I move this to the next stage, it's at 80%, but even though I sent the proposal, they're not really at 80%, I'm going to just put it in a different stage because I think that somebody else is going to win it.
Yep.
So I have the system do its calculations, which we have to base on historical data. And that's for the CFO to be looking at. That's for the high level. What are our typical percentages here? And then I let the sales reps put their own percentage in. I only think there's a 30% chance that we're going to get this, but I want to go through the entire process with this company so we get to know them. So we might make the next sale. So don't count on this sale. We're not going to win it, but it's still going through the stages. It's still going through the process, and they feel relieved. Like they're relieved that that you can show them, that they have some ability to,
Some autonomy.
yeah, they can define what they want it to be.
Liz, curiosity, do you have them put that in notes?
No, I have a separate stage.
Okay.
Not a stage. I have a separate column, which is the sales reps confidence.
Within our Salesforce instance, we have 2 different, one that's measured based off of the stage and one that is manually input by the rep, and that's just a field. But then you can still run the exact same reports and data off of it, and you can actually get a better feel sometimes of saying, okay, what's our gap between everything that's in stage 4 to, let's say you have a 5-step process, everything that's in stage 4, what's our actual gap if we compare the 2 numbers as a weight, right? So if we find out that we're only at, instead of 80% of the way through, all our salespeople seem to think that this is 47%, and that's what we can count on. We have a lot better understanding of what's that number likely to be.
So you have like a metadata number, and then you have a confidence number.
Yeah.
Yep.
That can be used differently. Okay. I think that was really helpful. What do you think? Armed with that, can we get better forecasting?
It's a start, but it's an iterative process, right? It's definitely an iterative process.
Well, have we brought up account review?
I
think
we kind of have touched on the outside of it, but what do you mean?
It would just like good quality one-on-ones, right? I think those help a lot too. It's really hard to get all the data in at all the right times, and a good quality one-on-one with each of the sales team members helps you go through with a little more thought. They prepare for the meeting, you talk about it, you update numbers.
Funnel review. I call that a funnel review. Some people call it a pipeline review. So there are 2 kinds of funnel reviews in my mind. There are the weekly ones where we quickly get a sense of what's happening right now that we need to prepare for. And then there's the monthly ones where we actually talk about all of the different things that are in there. What are the next actions? Is it really qualified? Is it not qualified? And really talk through all of that. So I think that's what I would call it, is a funnel review or a pipeline review. I think the other thing we didn't talk about is large accounts, the key accounts, the strategic accounts, and the work that needs to happen in those in order to grow them and to help hit numbers. And so often we are so reactive in those. They're the ones that we should know best and best be able to predict, and we really have no idea.
Well, I think that is a real key piece of. So we talked about like data points and metrics, right? And predictable forecasting numbers, right? But that empirical data from the customer relationship, because you could have, like with a key account, you could have all of your numbers could look great, But if you don't have a relationship with them, you don't know that they're going to put your account under review in 3 months, right? Like, so
or you get surprised. They say, hey, the biggest piece of your business, we're now putting out to RFP, and you think you've done it for 20 years. Of course, we're going to win this. And then you find out, no, well, why are they putting it out to RFP in the first place? Did you even understand? Now, some of it could be governance. I've seen that. But some of it could be relationship. Some of it could be someone else has been in their ear. I guarantee you someone else has been in their ear.
Or there's a new person making the decision.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
I mean, leadership changes are one of the big target things that I target on my accounts anytime a new person comes in, because they're almost always brought in as a change agent of some sort.
Exactly. I think that's a big one, like where forecasts get blown, right? Because we don't have that customer data. That's not, like, we get so focused, I think in the last 10 years on data points, right? Like, in marketing, I call it attribution crack. Like, we're just fixated on, this which thing brought which thing or whatever. In sales, it's, looking at the funnel, very specific things. And we're like this on that piece. When if we are talking to customers, we see, as Chris said, like, your biggest account is at risk or whatever else. And that can blow your whole forecast.
Here's a really cool thing though about AI. So when we talk about what AI can do, so your AI can start to figure out, if you have Copilot or something that works with your CRM, it can say, we typically lose these deals if we haven't talked to this buyer. Or if you don't have at least 3 buyers that you're talking to, you're only talking to 2, our chances of winning this deal decrease.
Yep.
That's one of the cool things that AI can help us do. And we could probably do that in our key accounts too. What are you going to say, Chris?
Yeah, I agree with that. But I think it's also a matter of, is your data quality of the information that you're capturing going to be there? Because that's one of the things. I mean, I see it all the time in organization. I had an organization, not current, but in the past, where certain accounts, and they were really large accounts, had multiple different salespeople that were engaged and different leaders. And they may fit into multiple verticals. And you would have people basically try to poach your account based on that. So then what people end up doing is they end up starting putting less information into the CRM, because I don't want these other people to have visibility into it. It creates a really, really bad sales culture. And really, I'd say corporate culture, but it's a really bad sales culture for you to have to live in, because leaders can't make decisions, or the C-level doesn't have visibility. And so then that starts into the pressure on the sales leader of, hey, why aren't we doing more in account XYZ? We should be doing 10x what we show in there. Well, maybe you are, but because of the way you've got your organization set up, people don't want to show you because of the way things work. So,
Chris, can I give you an example? So I used to work with a team that was relatively new to Salesforce. One of the biggest problems was how much was exposed to other people. and they fought this and fought this and fought this. Eventually, they just gave up on Salesforce because the team wasn't using it. Because every sales rep had their own little spreadsheet where they were recreating a CRM for their own customers on a little spreadsheet, because they didn't want all the other people to see the activity on that account.
Yeah, we've moved past Goldmine and things like that. Like the CRMs are good for what they do, but if you allow people to misuse them, if you get into, like, if you don't have really clear rules around how accounts get assigned, how territories are figured out, whether that's named account, whether that's a patch, whatever it happens to be, if you don't have really clear rules around how you handle that and how you handle transitions of those accounts, then you're going to end up with the wild, wild west. And that's not the place where you want to be if you're striving to be a mature organization. Having the rules, executing the rules. Hey, if someone hasn't talked to this account in the past 6 months, that brings it up for reassignment, and someone else can and will make that decision at the time. But if you're continuing to move deals forward, continuing to build the right relationships, and you can show me that, well, then why would I put somebody else in that account? Even if they're coming in and telling me the right thing. Because I'll tell you, salespeople can be fairly ruthless when it comes to, oh, I've got these relationships. And if you're not willing to question them on it and really find out what those relationships are, a lot of times they know the guy in procurement. Yeah, okay, so you sold something there before. But do you know the business leader who owns this particular function that we sell into? I've heard the name. Oh, okay, well, that's not quite a relationship.
I claimed it. I gave the phone number, the name, and the address. I claimed it.
Exactly. I planted the flag.
I'm sensing
And again, this is what
historical pain here.
All right, everybody. Again, Happy New Year. I hope your 2025 is absolutely fabulous, that you have a great culture and a great team that feels supported and effective and hits goal. And that's a wrap of this episode of the Sales SOS podcast. A huge thank you to our experts for throwing us a lifeline with their insights. We hope today's episode has equipped you to navigate the sales seas with confidence. Never miss an episode. Subscribe to the Sales SOS podcast on your favorite platform. If you have questions, comments, or topics you'd like us to explore, join us live on LinkedIn every second Friday, or share your questions on YouTube or LinkedIn. Until next time, keep sailing towards those sales goals. I'm Liz Hyman, your captain here at the Sales SOS podcast, saying smooth sailing and successful selling.